All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining today. On behalf of Integro Tech Data and IBM, I'm Jim Skidmore, and we welcome you to phase 3 of our Policy Best Practices event. We're going to cover some awesome content for you, go through AI concepts and other means by which you can eradicate and remediate threats. Joined today by Frank Welder from Tech Data, who's Senior Architect, and we'll let Frank kick things off today with a little bit of presentationware, and we may touch the cyber range a few times, but please feel free to ask questions kind of toward the end if you would be good enough, and we'll make sure to deal with all those. And then if you'd be good enough, we can also provide a little polling information to see what your perspective is. So everything that we come up with basically is based on feedback that we get from folks like you. So again, thank you very much for attending today, and I'll pass things over to Frank Welder.
Hey, thanks, Jim. I appreciate it. So yes, we do have a little bit of slideware before we go into the demo component of our discussion today. And just a reminder for everybody, we do like the interactive chat at the end, but we're going to have Q&A. So if you're using the screen, there's a Q&A button up there. Let's use the Q&A button, not the chat button. That way we can keep track of all the questions and answers and things like that as well as part of our discussion. So just a little housekeeping there, bathrooms are in the corner and things like that as well. Hey, but today's third and last session is part of our fundamentals of security. Really is going to be focusing on how you respond, right? So that's really going to be our thing. So this is a little review from our sessions in the last couple times, right? Why is my page down button working? Right, I got the new computer, right? And it's supposed to be doing these things. Oh, I had to find the right button, Jim. It was over there. Right, but I did find it. Right. We had our blood pressure from our average CISO, right, because of all the things they had to do with inside their life, and so we remember that one. We remember that a lot of the things that our customers are telling us as well, right, that our customers are needing help with modernizing their security controls and frameworks, and overcoming some really significant skills shortages in the IT and specifically the cyber industry. How to help them maintain regulatory compliance, address some attack vectors, especially IoT, and then most organizations are going to the cloud, how to get them there as well, right? So we remember having that conversation early on. And then in our first session, we really started talking about this. I need to be able to have this system that sees everything. We were talking about that system that sees everything being IBM's QRadar with the complete visibility from the endpoints to the data center to the IPS, the IDS, and the threat management feeds, right? Having that complete visibility to help you prioritize threats. And then we talked about investigations the second time we were together, being able to investigate whether that's an internal threat, an external threat, how we track down that IP address or that piece of malicious code or content, and then do proactive hunting associated with that, right? So I remember those sessions and I remember those wonderful. Just a couple of marketing slides on, we talked about QRadar, number one SIM, all those other wonderful things. I remember that one. Second time we got together, we were talking about that how we investigate threats and things within ours. We covered user behavior analytics and QRadar for Watson as part of that discussion. And today's discussion, I know we finally got there, is all about how we respond back to threats in our environment, right? We've had organizations spend large percentages of revenue or profit or whatever you call it to build great cognitive SOCs that understand how things work and things like that, right? And then we're like, well, what do you do when you find something, right? And you confirmed it's a threat. Let us the remediation. How are you doing that today? And you'd be surprised, and I'm not picking on any one organization associated with this, but in the conversations we've had about how we respond and response platforms and things like that, we've had organizations tell us they're using an Excel spreadsheet to track incident responses, who's doing what, how they're doing it, and things like that associated with it. And it is 2020. We're not meth gators yet, or whatever we're going to get with the next month, shall we say, right? But we can do a little better than Excel to be able to manage how we're doing incident response associated with it. So today we're going to talk about IBM's offering in this space called Resilient, right? And it is has been a great acquisition for the IBM organization about 5 years ago. This was an organization that did nothing but privacy for insurance agencies, and now we've expanded it out into this great platform to be able to do this. So from a market leader, there's this whole market segment called security orchestration, automation, and response, or the SOAR category of the market. And so this whole next generation SOAR platform. So yeah, I could use my Excel spreadsheet as my SOAR platform, but it's not going to be able to do this thing we're going to call intelligent orchestration. So when things need to get done, right? So we're going to talk a little bit more, or we're going to actually talk a lot more about intelligent orchestration as part of what we're doing as part of this thing, right? But so again, largest and most trusted incident response-based platform in the world, part of the largest enterprise security organization in the world. So IBM security team is number 2 in the world, behind a great organization called Symantec, because they've got so many endpoints out there associated with it today, right? As well as so it's a great platform trusted by many customers, backed by IBM and IBM's IBM security organization, and it's the only incident response platform, or IRP platform, with this built-in intelligent orchestration. So there's a whole group of partner ecosystems that have developed applications that work inside the Resilient platform that do a very intelligent orchestration. Whether that orchestration is people-based or machine-based, it really includes that capability for being able to conduct automation associated with it. And that is what we consider part of that intelligent orchestration. So much like we talked about our customers with some significant security challenges, here's some very specific SOAR challenges, and you might see where they intersect in a couple of different areas, right? There's that persistent skills shortage, right? 77% of organizations that were polled have some real difficulty hiring and retaining IT security professionals, right? And that's not new in the market space. We're going to continue to see that, right? So that was the same as the current customers are telling us, right? The consistently growing volume and severity of attacks, right? If we think back to the good old days, if we shall, we say, right? When I used to get a Trojan horse attack, and it was a pretty simple attack compared to multi-phased attacks that we're getting from a phishing campaign into a malware campaign into a denial of services campaign. We're seeing some very different and some large scale, what's the word I'm looking for here, complicated attacks associated with it, which is the next piece, right? Very complex and growing landscape from the regulatory side, right? Many of our customers are telling us that there's this reporting piece that goes along this. If I have a security incident, was it a breach, and do I do reporting, and who to report to? So we're getting the regulatory landscapes of GDPR, California, privacy restrictions and things like that, as well as most customers' SOC environments are changing as well, right? So we've got a SOC, a Security Operations Center, which has an average of 75 different security tools. That's by a Symantec presentation, or Symantec piece of research. 75 different security tools that our SOC, Security Operations Center folks, have to manage, not just to do SOC stuff, but to also then manage the SOAR component of this as well, right? So again, challenges do abound for us to be able to work at. So there's been a growth of the SOAR platform since about 2017. I know we're 2020 right now associated with it. We're really starting to see the growth of that SOAR platform. And it really is, it's not just the platform, right? An Excel thing, right? It's the whole orchestration and automation associated with it. Really ties these things together, right? So the 3 points of that is security orchestration and automation, right? As well as threat intelligence platforms, where you get the threat information from, as well as security incident response platforms, right? Bringing those all together is that SOAR platform that we get to go on. So when we talk about, hold on a second, I'm going to get a little sip of water here. Maybe check the Q&A box. All right, we're still good there. I imagine Jim's checking that box for me as well. All right. So let's take a little deeper dive into IBM's Resilient Intelligent Orchestration Platform. So the moniker they use associated with that is outsmart, outpace, and outmaneuver our complex cyber attacks, right? Because quite frankly, the single-threaded attacks are not that difficult to defeat with today's well-used tools associated with it. I want to be able to make so that I have, if I have a multi-phase attack or coming up from different vectors associated with that, my incident response platform gathers information very quickly associated with it. So I can ingest the piece associated with it. So then I can do case management. So when I ingest it, I assign it an incident and people and tasks associated with it. And those tasks come in the form of orchestration and automation. Which things to do in what order, and these are a machine-based task that I send out to Ansible, Tower, or something like that, or a human task that I have to wait for a human to be able to do to be able to move this thing forward, right? So this whole platform is designed to be able to deliver these three pillars of Gartner's approach to the SOAR platform as well associated with it. So let's take again, just diving a little deeper associated with that. When I take a look at orchestration and automation inside the Resilient platform, is I want to be able to do is for the demo, we're going to be able to show off incident ingestion and escalation. It's not a copy and paste and a thing like that. We're going to do some APIs associated with that to send it from the SOC platform or the SIM platform into the SOAR platform or the incident response platform associated with it. Right. Then we're going to have we'll be able to show some collaboration associated with it. Right. So if I got the single platform associated with it, I'm going to then use email collaboration to notify other members of the team that they have tasks. And I'm going to use that tool to be able to assign tasks and then do accountability of that via newsfeed and activity dashboard and different things associated with it. I'm going to be able to do team management, right? Because usually a incident response platform is a team associated with that, as well as an extended team, right? HR or marketing or network or privacy or database or things like that, right? So that team management, I'll assign metrics and KPIs, get a dashboard. It's almost tied out with my Canadian friends, a dashboard associated with it. Also, as well as being able to do simulations, right? So the first time that my incident response team works an incident or it works a response, it's not going to be a real life thing. I'm going to be able to do that through simulations and workspace and then role-based access control associated with that as well. So team management is covered, right? Then the next area we're going to talk about is associated with, come on, there it is. Again, orchestration automation is, remember we talked about the many organizations are facing a talent crunch with associated with IT. So one of the things we see with the orchestration automation within this platform is this thing called a guided response. So a guided response is, well, I think this is a denial of service attack, or I think this is a loss of records, right? So based upon that type of feedback, it'll guide what's your next options associated with it, right? So even if your team isn't up to speed or stellar associated with that, we got some great. I'm not saying your team's not stellar. I apologize, right? But when in case they're not as trained up as they should be or could be in areas, right? We'll use some guided response, as well as then if I say this incident went from a denial of service to a suspected malware to a breach, I want to be able to have a dynamic playbook that says, well, if I'm going from this to this to this, I'm going to add different tasks associated with it. So I'm going to build those dynamic playbooks. A customized business logic associated with that says, you know what, this asset's more important than this asset, or this is the way I treat this type of asset. And then we're not going to be able to show it today, but a drag and drop visual workflow editor to tie all those things together from orchestration. From an ecosystem, right, we're going to talk a little bit about this from an ecosystem standpoint, is how IBM does the validated integrations as well as then community integrations and what that developer team looks like. And then from a AI and human intelligence piece, this platform really looks at a custom threat intelligence feed. So whether you're using IBM's or Cisco's or Symantec's or different associated with that, being able to customize those threat intelligence feeds to then say, okay, if an incident comes in, right? So let's say I've imported this incident from my SIM system, right? It'll be able to say, well, this file hash is the same as in this incident over here. So being able to link those, right? And then do automated and enrichment. And automated enrichment is this thing that says, you know, I'm going to investigate this stuff anywhere. So if I'm going to use if I'm going to tell my automated enrichment system via EDR, right, a CrowdStrike or a Trend Micro application, right, gather up what this workstation's state was when this incident happened, right? Being able to do enrichment that way, right? That we think is a pretty important part of this, as well as just doing best practices, right? And incident response expertise, right? Being able to just tie that against an industry certification, or then, you know, just do a data breach notification associated with that, right? So we see that this whole incident orchestration piece is going to be very important. So if we put that down into three big areas that we say is driving this this whole intelligent orchestration, is first this thing being able to do integrated case management. So bring it in, collaborate, and report against it. Right, being able to show off automation and orchestration, right? Dynamic playbooks, guided dynamic playbooks, scripting engines, automated incident enrichment associated with it. So pull that stuff together, right? AI and human intelligence, AI augmented incident response or threat intelligence associated with that, and putting those together, and then get to the best practices and incident response expertise, and all those things working together. Really then drives this as a very intelligent orchestration platform for us to be able to use. And then just talking a little bit against you know, how this looks against your entire security operations center, right? So from a customer perspective, their SOC center, right? Resilient really creates a single hub for your SOC, for your security operations center, that allows you to outplace and outspot, right? So we're going to use you know, Resilient as the center of this thing, and being able to get automated enrichment associated with that, use our SIEM in the correct area, and then bring all those things together. And that's going to help us with a guided response. What should I do? When should I do it? And who should be doing it? Improve visibility, being able to say these two things are all tied together, as well as compliance, right? Being able to do reporting against that says this is how we're going to be able to fix those types of things, and this is what we did, and being able to report back against those, right? So that's how we see this whole orchestrating and automating across your entire security operations center. Just a great tool to be able to help you with your response and your visibility and your compliance access. Now, when we start talking a bit about orchestration, intelligent orchestration responses, I wasn't able to show a real-time demo of the visual workflow editor. Here's just an example of what this workflow editor looks like. So let me find my laser pen, because gosh knows I can't believe I went all this time without using my laser pen, right? These are the capabilities. It says automate for faster response. This says go out and, you know, talk to BigFix, or go talk to you know, Trend Micro, go talk to an LDAP server, and get information on a user or a machine type or whatever it is, right? So whenever you see things like this is like, go ahead and get automation associated with this to be able to gather information and pull it all together, right? And then these are going to be human decision and critical steps in this response process. So these are humans being able to say yes or no, or do this, or continue in this type of an area. And then orchestration. This is where you get different humans across different process types or technology platforms, and then tie them together to be able to show this is how this workflow editor is an example of how I tie in my intelligent orchestration with automation into my environment. So I do want to take a slide or two to talk about the orchestration ecosystem, right? Because I think this is an important piece of this IBM security product, as well as other IBM security products. Is the developer, the ecosystem associated with this comes in two flavors. There's think of this as this little wheel of IBM. Incident response platform cheese here, right? And we're going to have the IBM validated and supported applications. So using their IBM security applications, or security app exchange. This is where we're going to get applications that will extend or provide enrichment for our environment, our resilient environment in this platform, right? But there's also the community applications, right, that enables faster and smarter response through shared incident response and things like that. So here's the example I typically use in this one. we have a resilient customer called NASA. NASA is a company in the public domain associated with that. So whenever they develop an orchestration strip or a workflow that's got automation orchestration associated with that, they publish that out into the developer community to make it available for everybody to be able to use, whether it's GitHub or whatever is associated with it. But that's an example of industry or somebody working with us that then takes that and delivers that knowledge back associated with it. Right, so from a developer and a support community, right, we're finding no lack of dynamic playbooks and incident response best knowledge or automation scripts, and then IBM's overarching validated and supported applications piece, right? That's just how that works in that area. So here's just an example of the build out I should have done associated with it, but didn't with that thing. Right, so I just really wanted to take a couple of minutes to talk about those integrations with that. Let me do a time check over here. 21 after, we're in great shape associated with that, because we're on to my favorite part of the entire day associated with this. We're going to do just a tad bit of demo associated with what this bad boy looks like. And I really like showing this one off because it really starts speaking to the power of interoperability and things working together to get things done and things like that. So I'm going to, I think I do a control minus here. Right, we'll see if we can't make this a little bit better, right? So this is my QRadar, my IBM threat management demo environment with our Tech Data Submarines, right? So all I'm doing here is just being able to host some QRadar instances, Ansible instance, and in this case, a resilient instance, just kind of show off the capabilities associated with it. So if you remember from our first two meetings, we talked about, it really came down to an offense, right? When I found things and I used, UBA or a QRadar Advisor, the threat hunt associated with that, it really came down to the offense associated with that. And I'm going to pick a particularly terrible offense associated with this, and that's going to be offense 204, I think. Yeah, let's go with offense 204. It looks absolutely dreadful associated with this. All right, so this is where I get a success audit. So a new process was created. So that's probably a piece of malware that got download as part of that. And then I see a Metasploit. All right, so whenever I see Metasploit, I'm like, oh, bad guys are on their way here. Where they lost PowerShell exec and a module has been detected. So I got PS exec running out there. Then I get PS exec lost from a compromised host. This is host that already connected to a bad site that I knew about. So I got 10 sorts of trouble associated with this particular piece of an endpoint here, right? All sorts of bad things, right? And then I get PowerShell malicious usage detected with an encode command. So I imagine this is somebody trying to steal some records, do a DB command or something, but using the encode command so they don't think that I can see associated with this, right? So remember, this is the incident got created associated with this. This is all bad, right? If I'm the SOC analyst, the Security Operations Center analyst, this is all bad. I look at this and I go, this is terrible, right? Right? Maybe nobody's gonna get fired over this one, but let's stop this attack from happening. All right, so the first step we have with stopping this attack from happening is to click my little button called Send Resilient. And we're going to see how touchy my system is today, whether or not it'll do my Send Resilient. So I've got a couple of different template types I can use associated with this. As this is just a triage associated with this, I can send it in under our triage template. But if I knew if this was a denial of service versus a malware versus a compromised host, right, I might select that. But in this case, I'm going to show off triage because I want to show off a couple of different things called dynamic playbooks and guided instant response associated with it. So in this case, I'm just going to use the default template and take it from there. Click OK, and we'll see what happens here. No, I'll use this pregnant pause to, oh, there it is, pop-up blocked. I'm sorry, I didn't configure my system correctly today. Always allow. All right. I'm going to click it again and see if it happens that way. No lack of Murphy in the room. There it is. So this is the correct behavior that I was looking for, is that when I told it to unblock the pop-up, it then went into this, hey, let's create, right? So this is all part of that ingestion, right? I want to be able to take whatever this incident is and ingest it over here. Now I showed it with QRadar. I could have done this with Splunk or LogRhythm associated with it as well, right? So depending on whatever your platform is from a SIM standpoint, if that's what you want to use as your ingestion engine associated with this, away we go. You can also just inbox it. You could actually just have emailed this in, and I could have done this way, right? But I'm going to keep on the create screen here because I just want to show off some things associated with it. It brought in all the information associated with description as well as the number of events and the categories are in. So again, it put all of the documentation about what is going on with this thing in a single place associated with it, as well as assigned an incident type called system intrusion. Right, so we don't know exactly what's going on, but under system intrusion, there are a certain set of tasks that are going to go along with that. So I'll take a look at my task list over on this side. I can see that I've got that initial triage, interview, notify, then I got some detect and analyze pieces associated with this. And then I've got how I'm going to respond, right? So very quickly, based upon what QRadar saw as an incident type associated with this, it said, I am going to assign a set of tasks, right? So call that a dynamic playbook or dynamic capability associated with that, right? So it said, oh, based upon what I see, and it's seen enough of these things to actually, get a pretty clear spot associated. It said, I'm going to then create a set of tasks associated with this. Now, if I had actually had this configured even a little bit, a step further associated with this, I could, for every one of these unassigned areas, I could have had, say, if it's in the respond category and it's this type of a threat that's being assigned to it, assign this type of a team member automatically, right? And then notifications happen via email, right? That's how we get to the whole capability of response associated with this. I'm going to drill up to the top associated with this one again, and just go back to the detail side associated with this thing, because I'm going to change some things here, right? Because now I'm not the SOC person. I'm the incident response specialist. So as an incident response specialist, I am now going to take a look at all of this in a little bit more different lens, shall we say, and see if I can't figure out how I'm going to fix, right, or respond to this type of thing. So I start off with an incident intrusion. What I really find out associated with it just wasn't just a system intrusion associated with that. We see system intrusion associated with PS exec, and a new process was created associated with this. But remember that other thing where an encode command was listed as part of this thing? Through some work I did on a network flow side associated with this, I've determined that this was an access to improper files, right? So I believe that now I've got a situation where I've got stolen documents or files associated with this as well. So this went from a system intrusion, an intrusion, to a breach, right? A data breach associated with it. So again, showing the capabilities for dynamic, right? It's not going to include stolen documents and files associated with this, right? And then I can do different things, right, associated with, right? Has the incident been confirmed or not confirmed? Yes, it is associated with it. Resolution, it is unresolved at this time associated with it, and I could put some information associated with this as well as date and time associated with this. But one of the things I do like to be able to show associated with this is when I click save, hopefully it will update my task list associated with this. Because now I've gone from a system intrusion, I'm sorry, it didn't update my task list associated with that, because there's the same rules apply for system intrusion as they do for this other one. So let's talk about stolen documents and files to well, let's add in malware associated with this as well. And I'll click save associated with that. And here's an example of where it then, based upon what I selected from a incident type or response I associated with that, it then adds tasks associated with that as well. So that's an example of first guided, right? So helping you decide how to best respond to this incident, and then dynamic playbooks associated with this. Now, these are dynamic playbooks that you see associated or delivered with the system from IBM. There are dynamic playbooks as part of the developer community, developed from NASA to a whole lot of folks down that address these types of things. And a lot of them deal with orchestration as well associated with that, right? Or automated enrichment associated with that. But this is just an example then of how I was able to take this one piece of information and then look at it more from a incident response standpoint, and now say, let's take a look at the tasks associated with this, right? And now I've got it all the way through. So now I can track who's doing what, when they're doing it, and is it in sequence or are they behind associated with it. So I can track it from an individual case associated with this, or I could take a look at it from a dashboard associated with that as well. So I could take a look at it from an activity dashboard, and an activity dashboard just lists off it's called the TikTok, right? And not that type of TikTok, right? But the TikTok associated with when things happen associated with it as part of it, right? So I can just do it from a show all, or I can just start driving down associated with it, depending on how I want to be able to modify it. The other dashboard that comes built in associated with this is the analytics dashboard associated with this. And the analytics dashboard is this thing that you can use for executive reporting that starts talking about, okay, here's our incidents over time, or assigned by who, or what's taking long associated with that, and closed incident, and different severity models, right? So a good way to provide executive oversight associated with what those incidents look like associated with that as well. Right, so I think the last thing I want to be able to talk about when we start talking about the, one of the second to last things I want to be able to show associated with this is to then create let's call it a simulation, right? So what we saw here was me creating a incident, all right, that I wanted my team to be able to work on based upon a real world example. Well, I also have the capability to create a tabletop exercise. So if I want to get a certain group together to provide training or additional insight or different things associated with it, I could create a simulation that then I can assign a name and a privacy and put a team associated with this. And now I could put myself in a position to better train my folks that I may not have been able to hire, or if I did hire, have a lack of skills associated with it, so I can get them trained up in this area, right? So now I get a whole capability to provide training in the same tool sets and the same look, shape, and feel that they would have if they, if it would have been a live incident associated with it. So one of the things that I always talk about when we start looking at organizations is yeah, do you want them to be playing with fire on day one, or do you want them to be able to get on the bunny hill? I guess I mixed some metaphors there, but you know what I meant, right? To be able to do those types of things associated with it. So the last thing I want to talk about as we take a look at this is, remember how this incident, this incident we just put in, 2105, went from a system intrusion to stolen documents and files and records and things like that. But one of the things that we have to answer associated with that is the breach associated with that. So when I take a look at that, one of the things associated with a breach, right? System intrusion versus a breach, a loss of GDPR or California Consumer Privacy and Detection Act and different things associated with that, is I may have to do reporting associated with that. So one of the things that the incident response platform that's built in as part of Resilient offers is this whole breach management and notification capabilities. So in this case, I'm going to edit this particular this incident, but the breach notification portion part of this. And I want to say, was personal information or personal data involved? And I know through my research, yes, it was involved, associated with this. Is harm or risk for this? Yeah, I assume the worst in people in this case, right? Was the data encrypted? So fortunately for us, we were using a great product called Security Key Lifecycle Management and encryption on our disk drive, so the data was encryption. And has the exposure been resolved? Yes, we believe the exposure has been resolved, and the source of the data was a file system, right? Yeah, just put files associated with that, right? And then the data format is going to be electronic. And then I can start describing the data associated with it, right? What data types were involved in missing associated, because it matters on the reporting and who I have to tell associated with this thing, right? Whether it was this contact information or medical or health related information, or that identity information or other data associated with it, financial, it fall into special categories. We had credit card data, get debit card information. So we really want to make sure that we can help you describe the information that was lost associated with that. this, right? The next portion that happens as part of the breach notification and privacy reporting is this whole thing called record distribution, right? And so state and privacy regulations are different and sensitive to the residency of the individuals that were affected associated with this, right? So we have to do an allocation associated with this type of thing, right? So I'm going to add a jurisdiction associated with this. So it will now allow me to list the jurisdictions that this data was a part of, right? So this is the US-based restrictions associated with this. And I'm going to assign Alaska, Alabama, Arizona, Skippy, Arkansas, I'm going to select Colorado, or California. We always like adding California to that thing, right? I'm going to click add here, and now I can start listing off numbers of records that were lost in each individual jurisdiction. And it matters, right? And here's an example, right? If you lose 499 records in California, it's a different reporting and timeline for notification than it is if you lose 500 records in California, right? So this is an example of why we want to be able to do these types of things, or ask these types of questions. Continuing on, right? Which regulators, and notification, right? Because notification letters are a part of this thing, right? And which regulators need to be associated with this, right? So I know that this is a HIPAA thing, and I have to do this via, I'm just going to say HIPAA associated with this, right? Is there any special or jurisdictions that come as part of this? And yeah, it is California Health and California Insurance associated with that. And the instant things are select the regulator, right? If you want to, if you tips again, continue to guide us associated with this, right? Was any of the information Canadian, or in this case, now I'll start saying European. So it lets you, again, continue to describe that data and lets you assign who has to be able to look at those pieces of data, right? So I'm going to click save at this point, and I think you'll actually see that it's going to upgrade the latest version. I'm sorry, associated with that, I apologize. If it would have been the latest version, you would have seen, again, new tasks associated with this particular incident that would then assign them, that you could then assign to and then start working on it that way. And the tasks in this particular case were associated with being able to create and submit a document for notification against these different jurisdictions and things like that. So with that, I think the demo portion of this is over. I want to check the Q&A in the chat window, just making sure if there's anything that I need to pay attention to in there. I want to jump into the chat window real quick as well, right? I'm not seeing anything in either one of those. I'm going to hand back over to you, Jim.
Frank, thank you. Very comprehensive. I think everybody got a very thorough view of security orchestration, automation, and response full life cycle. So even touched on security key lifecycle management and a couple of other little sidebars there, which is great.
I couldn't help myself, right? I want to get them all in there.
No, that's great. So I think people can see how comprehensive kind of the Resilient offering is, and the service is obviously available, very mature at this point, and has been quite busy since everybody's been working at home and the Resilient programs have been tested. So what I'd like to do right now is really quickly just take you quickly through a couple of things that we have for you today for being an attendee. So if I might, very quickly, okay, come on, there you go. Yes, we very much appreciate your time. Really quickly, a few just passing words about Integro. We are a global company. We are a solution integrator focused on security, compliance, and risk management. We have an incredible expertise around most things cyber, and offer some managed security service components. We are a world leader in identity and access management, governance and compliance, managed infrastructure services, and obviously we're very focused on consulting with clients, whether that's large managed service down to kind of a person working on an implementation. We do also have a very strong emphasis on value-based pricing, and we are a diversity-focused business with those classifications. We use our execute and elevate delivery model to make sure that things get done very quickly, whether they're done in the Americas or US or Europe, on-site, nearshore, offshore support for all of the offerings that we provide. We are consistently ranked by our clients, um, one of, if not the top of the chain of competent and best value service providers in their environments. For attending today, we're very appreciative of your participation. And we, as Courtney, I think, put in the chat, would love to hear your feedback and any Q&A you might have. But you've earned one of two free offerings today. We do free risk assessments all the time for our clients in multitude of verticals, even in state and local governments, et cetera. So in a free risk assessment, what we'll do is review specific areas of interest from your side, or we can take it as wide as you like from your posture perspective, including SIM endpoint, DLP, any, SOAR that Frank was just talking about, or any other area that you think is, you would like some advice and counsel on. We also then provide back a set of recommendations. We can also do, and this is very popular today, a free business value assessment for you. What that basically does is it enables us to get an understanding of your assets, the effectiveness and utilization of those, looking at cost and potential return on investment. And then as an outcome of that, we're able to provide, again, a detailed set of recommendations, and at times even methods to save a few bucks if there is a tool that you're using or don't have that can do the work of three that you do have today. We can kind of review an entire portfolio of things and see if anything makes sense or what makes sense to be optimally safe, compliant, but ultimately cost effective as well. What we do, really quickly, I think I just mentioned endpoint security consulting. We do a lot of that. We also sell, by the way, all the product sets that we integrate. So that'll be something to remember. We also work on IDS, IPS, which Frank was referring to earlier, network, firewall, consulting, implementation. SIM and SOAR are huge for us now, as Frank was just talking about. So we understand kind of the full life cycle of, everything from the compliance ramifications of SIM to all of the response requirements on the SOAR side and everything in between. DLP, prevention and protection, we do strategy, definition, and implementation of those tools. We can help you develop your topology or your security zone strategy. We do forensic investigations, application security, and as I mentioned, posture policy assessment, which we're kind of talking about today, or again, business value assessments, which again, as an attendee, you have a right to ask us for that for no cost. We're very strongly engaged today in converged identity and access management and privileged access and account management. So if you're in a situation where you're moving toward the cloud from an identity perspective, or if you're simply, looking at how you're going to move your distributed environment up there, we can definitely provide a lot of advice and counsel along those lines. And that might be a way to use your risk assessment if you so desire. We do obviously have SOC operations capabilities, IR, red team, blue team, purple team, a lot of which Frank was talking about earlier as he was kind of going through kind of the resilient response strategy. All aspects of threat management, including threat intel, IoT protection, penetration testing, and full lifecycle compliance remediation, and GRC implementation. So if you have wrestling with issues along those lines, we can certainly help you there. Very quickly, we are a global company, as I mentioned earlier, with kind of folks and offices all over the world, along with 27,001 certified SOCs for managed service requirements. We are very privileged to work with some fantastic companies. We can't drill down into all the things we do with all of our customers out there, but we are very fortunate to do so. So we have now passed our third phase of our posture and policy series along with Tech Data. So we are very grateful for your attendance and sitting in and kind of listening with us. We'll continue to update you on other events to come. This is 812, the third one. So we are grateful for your attendance today. Again, as Courtney mentioned, if there are additional questions, thoughts, options, even recommendations, we'd be glad to hear them. Other than that, that's really what we have for you. So I will do another quick check, if I may. And let's see if we have any questions. Okay, and then in a minute, by the way, I should also mention Courtney did publish the feedback forum in here as well. So we're very appreciative of any feedback that you can provide with regard to kind of the survey that's out there. So it looks like we do not have any questions at this time. So that being said, we are grateful again for your attendance. If you would like to take us up on one of our free offerings, we're happy to do so. And thank you very much for attending today. We're very appreciative of that. Thanks to Frank Welder as well. And thanks to Courtney. So on behalf of the team, I'm Jim saying thanks again, and please enjoy your summer and stay safe. Any parting shots, Frank?
No, none for me, right? I agree with you, right?
Okay.
Thanks much. Have a great time.
All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it.